What's up, guys? I'm the Wanderlusting Lawyer, and welcome to my Camino de Santiago YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to be talking about my scariest moments on the Camino de Santiago. Not the most positive topic, but you know me, I try to keep things real. I want you to learn from my information. Although I very much feel like some of these moments become almost the best moments in a sense because they're the ones that stick with you and really shape your Camino experience. But before I do that, this is not an advertisement, but if you guys haven't tried these Lemon Perfect hydrating waters, I highly recommend them. I love them. I use them, when I'm training. And if anyone knows anyone who works for this company, have them hit me up because I would love to advertise for them because they're so good. But I was drinking one as I was preparing, so I figured I would let you guys know if you're not a Gatorade person. I love this water. This one's the Kiwi Star Fruit flavor. But anyway, let me get right into it. So these are kind of in order, but I don't know. At the time being, I probably thought each one of these was my scariest moment. So it's just with some reflection now and like what really kind of looking back was scary. So I would say, I have basically 5 and then a bonus. So I would say number 5, the least scary, was when I took a tumble on the last day of my Camino Aragonés a couple summers ago. So this was the stage between Monreal and then Puente de la Reina, actually, that meets up with the Camino Francés in Obanos. Obanos, I think is how you say that with the accent on the O. Anyway, it's a day that really winds across like a hillside, and the path is really narrow. It's actually, a lot of the Camino Aragonés has really narrow pathways. You wouldn't be able to walk side by side with somebody. And I was just kind of the path was heading downhill, and I'm kind of clumsy anyway. I think it's because I don't pick up my feet very much when I walk. But I hit a rock, and I instinctively put my poles out, and I think that saved me from really being seriously injured. But I took a tumble like head over heels and landed on my pack. Definitely knocked the wind out of me. I kind of laid there for a good probably 15 seconds, a little bit dazed. And that's one of the things that makes me a little bit nervous about walking, like another Camino that is really that has very few pilgrims and walking alone. And that's why hopefully you caught my last video and you saw I'll be walking the Camino Inglés this summer, which has a significant amount more of pilgrim traffic. So that I think has affected me a little bit, but I took a tumble. I got a pretty nice cut on my knee. I look pretty badass, I would say, but that was a little bit scary. It was scary in the moment as you're falling and you're thinking, am I about to break something? I hadn't really done a tumble like that, so it was interesting to see that that's what came into my head. Am I about to break something? But yeah, that was a little bit scary for me. The next one, okay, this could be placed differently. I think it's, not quite as scary, but it was scary for me. It'll make more sense in the context of another scary moment I'm going to share, but I'm again on the Camino Aragonés, and as y'all see, almost all of these are from the Camino Aragonés. The Camino Francés, I didn't really have scary moments, I think because there were so many other people around. It's so the infrastructure is amazing. But anyway, on the Aragonés, I twice had to walk through a field of cows. And before you laugh, a lot of the cows, which I know are not bulls, did have big horns. And I have read many reports of cows, if they have, if their babies are around, the moms can actually get pretty territorial. And one of the times I had to walk by them, the path was, at most maybe 6 feet wide generously. So if a cow decided that he or she was not happy that I was there, I was going to be in trouble. And so that was really not my favorite at all. The first time I actually waited, for two people to come, just luckily, because I didn't see anyone else all day on the trail. A young couple came. There were some of my Camino angels, and I felt so silly, but I asked if I could cross the field with them. And I actually, one of the cow, as we were passing by, one of them made kind of a quick movement, and the other girl and I both made like a little bit of a noise. So I was glad to see I wasn't the only one that was scared. But wildlife in general, and I will be making a video on Camino wildlife. I already have it planned out. But that's something that I'm not super comfortable with. I'm trying to get better. But that was a little nerve-wracking for me. And just know you may be walking by wild animals. I've heard that on the Primitivo, there are a lot of wild horses and cow on the trails. So just be aware of that. My next scariest moment, I would say, would be getting lost. And this happened once on the Camino Frances. I've already made a video on that. You can check it out. And then, but that was pretty easy to backtrack. It was just more of a like, oh my gosh, I've added this onto my route. Like, what do I do? And so I backtracked and got back on the trail. And it actually ended up being one of the best stories that I have. But on the Camino Aragonés, so on the second to last day from, I think it was Sangüesa to Monreal, you can take a detour to something called the Foz de Lombier, I think is how you, Lumbier, I guess you would pronounce it, Fozdelumbier. And I'd read it was totally stunning. I knew it was going to make for a freaking long day, but people said like, this is out of Jurassic Park. You won't find anything like this anywhere else in Spain. You have to see it if you can. So I'm so stubborn. Of course, I was like, I can't come here and not go see this. So I got lost multiple times trying to find this place. I was already tired, sore. Found it though. It was as beautiful as everyone says. There's this really creepy / cool tunnel that you go through to enter into the park. It was awesome, worth it. But then, I don't know how, maybe a couple hours after leaving that, you're just on a different route the whole way. Like, I still, frankly, to this day, don't know where it's supposed to meet up with the route that everyone else is taking that doesn't do the detour. I couldn't find it. I could not find it. There was one town that I came to that had a big yellow arrow pointing up. So I walked uphill, and it dumped me on the side of this kind of major, like, highway that was not very, like, highly traveled. So that part about it wasn't scary, but I'm so stubborn. I was just convinced I was not on the right route. I wanted to be on the right route. So I kept trying to go up into what seemed like this foresty trail that could be the right route. I was trying to look at resources online. And I could not find it. So I was just so tired. I was realizing I was going to get to my final destination because there was literally nowhere else to stay at 7:30. I'm too stubborn to call a taxi, so I finally just made myself walk along that main route. I did see on my GPS that I was eventually going to get to the town that I knew I was going to be able to pick up the regular Camino trail in. But more so than scary, that was just a super overwhelming moment. And I just let my stubbornness get in the way, so I wouldn't recommend that. On the Camino Frances, you'll probably not have that problem. If you're kind of getting lost, there are plenty of people around to help get you back on trail. There weren't even locals to help me out. And so actually what was crazy was I actually saw two other pilgrims coming up the same way. They said, no, this is a shortcut. We actually will get there faster. So that reassured me that I was at least if not the correct, I was on a decent path. So it's hard for me to pick between number 2 and number 1. But I'd say I'll leave the most acute sense of fear, like I might get extremely injured in the next 3 seconds, for the last. The next one is when I actually did have to walk on a shoulder of a very busy route that was, maybe this wide. And that was on the Camino Aragonés. That was between Box and Urdos. So very, one day before you cross the Pyrenees and arrive at Somport and cross into Spain. There is no pilgrim route that takes you off of the highway. There is a bus that can take you there, but one, please see prior comment about being too stubborn to take public transportation. And two, I didn't quite understand that that was the case. Like I got down to the main route and couldn't accept that this is how I was supposed to get to the next town. So I literally turned around 2 times, walked back up to Box, the town I had just come from, tried to figure out what was going on, and finally called the owner of the auberge, the albergue in Urdos. And I speak French, so luckily I could explain my situation and say, is this really the route or where do I go? And he said, no, unfortunately, that is the only route that exists at this time. They've been talking for years about building something a lot safer that kind of goes through the woods next to it, but it hadn't yet been done. And so I probably, going back, the next time I would absolutely call a taxi or take the bus at that point. I don't recommend taking the walking route because it's like 45 minutes to an hour with a lot of very windy blind curves that you can listen, but you don't know if a truck is going to be coming. And if they are, there are times I had to literally go over the barrier and kind of like hug myself on the other side. I got offered a ride by a very creepy truck driver. Like, it was not at all ideal. The only, I guess, what is it called? Silver lining of this experience was I got to see an unbelievable view of this fortress that's built into the mountainside that you cannot get that view unless you're standing on the road. I think it's called the Portalet, the Fort du Portalet or something like that. I'll check it out if you guys are interested and I can post the name below. But I did get that cool view. So that was nice, but it's not worth it because I was literally I was nervous that I was going to get hit by a truck for about 45 to 50 minutes. It was not at all a relaxing time. And then really the icing on the cake and my number one scariest moment, and it was that same day, it was earlier that day. This day was just the worst day I've probably ever had on any Camino ever, was I got attacked by a dog. It was terrible. I was terrified. I was able to protect myself with my poles. I've told the whole story about this in the day that I recount, that day on the Camino Aragonés. I guess it was technically still the Chemin d'Arc because I was still in France. Long story short, that part of the Camino goes through people's property or behind people's property. A lot of times there are fences that have signs or gates that have signs that say, please close behind you. And I came to a gate, I closed it behind me, and I heard a dog start barking. And I immediately, I just knew, that instinct you can have. I just knew this is not a friendly dog, at least in this moment. So I steeled myself. I said, do not look at the dog in the eye. Slowly keep walking, advancing forward, keep your poles out. But the dog arrived and he was not going to let that happen. So as he or she started charging, I made an X with my poles, held them out in front of me, and just started screaming. Now I know I probably should have had a rock. I carry a rock in my pocket now. I have an air horn now that I'm bringing with me on my next Camino. But I know there are a lot of different tricks. I just wasn't ready for any of them. And so I just started screaming, honestly. And luckily, I heard what I figured was the owner, and in French, I was like, help, help, help. And so finally he arrived, and as he sees me, like, his dog is probably this close to me, fending off his dog, the dog runs away. So the dog is obviously not even responsive to the owner. Like, this owner does not have control of his animal, and it runs away. And the guy comes over and is like, what happened? What happened? But it's a nice dog. He's not a mean dog. Like, what happened? You shouldn't be screaming like that. I was like, sir, I was screaming because your dog was coming for my jugular, and I didn't know how else to react in that moment. But here's the kicker. So I'm crying too. And the wife is coming down as well. And I'm just like, I need to keep walking. I need to get away from this place. As I'm walking, maybe 30 seconds later, the dog returns and starts to try to attack me again. So of course I start screaming again. And the owner comes running, the dog runs away again, and this time I'm like inconsolable. So the wife is trying to calm me down. The guy finally gets control of his dog, you know, has the dog's collar, puts the dog in the car and drives away. But it was like, I really think I would have been gravely injured if it were not for my poles. So I will never again not walk with at least one, but probably always two poles. And just being able to, I don't know, like keep my confidence about me even as I'm screaming and crying. Anyway, those are the actual scariest moments I've ever had on the Camino. And one bonus for you guys after all of that to keep it lighthearted so you can laugh is maybe one of the scariest wake up moments I've ever had was in Fonsebadon when I woke up to a middle-aged Italian man sleeping only in bikini briefs, basically almost cuddling me and snoring in my ear. Because if you've been to this albergue, you know the bunk beds are pushed together. You end up, no matter, like, depending on how you sleep, you can end up spooning your neighbor. And that was a pretty scary moment for me. I don't need that to happen again. But anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I hope you found it instructive. Hope you can learn some stuff from it. Again, I've learned from it. I think we need to sometimes have these moments to learn from it as well. But thanks. If you've watched until now, you are truly a super fan. Let me know that you made it to the end. And of course, any other comments you want to provide, let me know what your scariest moment was or maybe what your biggest fear is. And I will see you guys really soon. Buen camino.